Joining me now is Senior Fellow for the Independent Women's Forum, Patrice Lee. Patrice, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Patrice, this story is so absurd. It's hard to believe that it's actually happening, that people are actually taking this seriously. But this political correctness for Halloween, I mean, the clowns, I'll give you, that might be scarier. But the political correctness to me is scarier than any ghost or goblin this Halloween.
It absolutely is. So, I mean, this is the one time of year that you get to express yourself and try on a new occupation, even try something or try to be someone that you've never been before. And that's exactly what the cultural appropriation police are trying to stamp out, and they are trolling college campuses. You had some really great examples, but another example was, the University of Florida. They have literally set up a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline for anyone who feels like they saw a Halloween costume that offended them. They're going to have a bias team that goes out there and looks for Halloween costumes that may be offensive and then, targets those students for some education. I mean, we have to wonder, with the rising cost of college, is that what university dollars should be going towards? Cultural appropriation, police, and costumes?
Right, and honestly, that's kind of the point of Halloween. The point is to heighten reality. Like you said, it's to dress up like somebody that you could never be in real life. And it does make it larger than life. They're not always, I mean, it's Halloween. Half of the costumes are gruesome. This is not some Tea Party club where you're going to just be celebrating everything good here. But Patrice, one of their mantras here is, and this is a quote, "We're a culture, not a costume." And I guess I don't understand, why are they assuming that these costumes, even if they're larger than life, why are they assuming these costumes are derogatory?
Well, it's because cultural appropriation suggests that if you are a Caucasian or a white person, and you admire anything from a different culture without acknowledging the hardships that those people have endured, that you are stealing from that culture or appropriating that. And it certainly makes much heavier or makes more serious a situation that shouldn't be so serious. I mean, I'm an African-American woman. I was actually born in the Caribbean, and I remember, the reggae costumes that had a hat and dreadlocks attached to them for many years.
Right.
I never took offense to that, because if someone appreciates something about my culture, hey, learn from me, have at it, and enjoy it. But this is a much more serious issue. This is a spillover from, the limits on free speech that we're seeing. The Supreme Court already said that offensive costumes, even if they're odious, they are permitted and protected by the Constitution. So why is it that universities and administrators feel like they need to limit free speech? If you want to look like a fool and act like a fool, then go ahead and do that. At least it shows me the character that you are. But for you to limit free speech, I think it does no one a service.
Right, and that's a really good point. And I think, just to add one thing to that, when liberals call for tolerance here, tolerance goes hand in hand with free speech. You can't have one without the other. The whole idea of free speech here isn't to protect the words that we want to say to one another that everyone wants to hear. The idea of protected free speech is to protect us, to protect our right to say things that are offensive, that could be offensive, or that somebody else might not want to hear. You can't have one without the other.
That's exactly right. And it's sad to see how they've been decoupled. These two fundamental principles have been decoupled and used against us. For those people who say, what, you're taking from my culture, and we could talk about, Kylie Jenner wearing a do-rag that black men wear as being offensive or cultural appropriating. If you want to borrow from a culture, if you want to appreciate a culture, go for it. It shouldn't be a case where it's considered intolerance. It should be a case where, actually I appreciate something about this culture and it's becoming a part of a mainstream culture. That's a great thing. That's called assimilation. That's called cultural appreciation.
Right, and if there is, at the end of the day, a symbol that someone's wearing at Halloween that they might not fully understand, that they borrowed from another culture, it's not like you can't educate them on what that means or why that might hurt your feelings, but that's different than banning their right to do so. Patrice, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking about this story. It was great to have you. Our next tipping point with J.D. Gordon is the bombshell video that proves Hillary Clinton paid rioters to incite violence at Donald Trump rallies. We'll be right back.